Om Maha Ganapataye Namaha. In this video, I'm going to talk about a spiritual perspective on what's going on with the coronavirus. This is being derived from my teacher, Dr. Ply, who's been putting out a lot of teachings and content lately to help people understand what's going on and what to do about it. Before I get into that, I want to quickly say that in the link of the description of this video, I'm going to link over to a blog post that I helped create for Ply Center that summarizes 4 key points that Dr. Ply has put out, and also provides techniques including mantras, meditation, fire ritual. I'll put a link, so check that out either now or after the video, however you want to go about it. So the higher perspective on what's going on with the coronavirus. On one level, you have what's called in the Bible, as above, so below. I believe it was in the Bible. As above, so below is a saying. And this is very true also in the mystical traditions of India as well, that what we experience as manifested on the material plane is as a byproduct or an effect of what's going on in the divine planes or the subtler planes of reality. In other words, what we experience here is sort of the end of the road, and it's only a manifestation of what's happening on and going on there. And the way that they would explain this in Christianity is you have the forces of light and darkness, where you have the archangels battling against the fallen angels. And in India, they have the similar descriptions. It's all referring to the same thing, where you have the manifestation of positive forces and manifestation of negative forces. So as Dr. Ply has mentioned, the coronavirus is not just a inert virus. It actually is alive, and it is representation of the evil forces manifesting on this plane. And why? Now, that's one aspect of it. Now, the higher aspect of it is that this is being allowed to happen by God, because you have to understand that nothing happens unless God allows it to happen. Where the power that the evil forces are using to do anything, and obviously the good forces, light forces as well, is coming from God. So nothing, they say, Dr. White is saying, nothing moves unless God allows it to move. So the higher perspective is that this is being allowed to happen by God. And now why is that? Why? Well, you have the transition of the ages, what's being called as the Kali Yuga or Dark Yuga, which we're transitioning into the Satya Yuga, or the Age of Light, or the Golden Age, which has been predicted in traditions all over the world. It's not limited to just Indian tradition. And in Christianity, you have the book of Revelations talking about this end time madness that's happening at the end. It's representing the darkest before the dawning of the light, so to speak. Now, why is this allowed to happen? The theory is we have become over-dependent on science and technology and our rationalistic mind. Not that the science and technology is bad, but it's limited. And science and technology is born out of the materialistic mind, or the limited mind. We have put down, so to speak, we have been experiencing a suppression of the God intelligence, or the what's been called as metaphysics, or the spiritual aspect of reality. And the coronavirus, what is it doing? It's isolating people. It's putting people in, it's causing a lot of chaos and fear. And what happens when people, as a one saying goes by one yoga, I forget his name, I think it was in the book written by Paramahansa Yogananda, the whips of pain drive us to God. So when people are scared and nobody has a solution for this virus, people are freaking out. And what do? They turn to God. By default, people start turning to God because they don't know where, there is nowhere else to turn. And also through the isolation of people being recommended not to go out and participate in group events, schools and things are shutting down, and it's putting people into an isolation where they're having to sort of stop the normal routine, and focusing so much externally, and starting to have to sort of sit with themselves. And the idea is to put them in a state of a reflection, where they start acknowledging God's presence. And so one thing I want to say is you don't have to be afraid. And in the link below this video, I'll link you over to a blog where I share 4 summarized components of what Dr. Ply has been putting out about how to combat this virus. And so you don't have to be afraid, okay? Number 1 is you have to replace fear with prayer. So the fear is born out of illusion that God's not in control, or that there is no higher intelligence that's in control. It's a sort of a chaotic, born out of a chaotic and not acknowledging of God's presence. So what Dr. Ply is recommending is, instead of being afraid, just pray. Get on your knees and pray to God, and start, if you haven't already, building a relationship with God and making sure that you are acknowledging God's presence, and that's part of what this is all about. So this is a way you can get out of the sort of rat race of the virus and participating in. There's so many ways to indulge in fear. The media is blowing it up. Everyone's talking about it. I'm suggesting to you is don't indulge in fear, because we, by nature, the mind for some reason likes to indulge in fear, and part of the reason it likes to indulge in fear because it likes to feel protected. It wants to feel a security. It's all about security. And so by indulging that fear also comes with that feeling of security. And when you do indulge in fear, it's sort of your body releases neurochemistry that makes you sort of feel good. And so there's that word or phrase, a buzzword called fear porn, which is basically saying people do like to indulge in fear. The mind likes to do it. Just be aware of that. Replace the fear with prayer. What's needed right now is prayer. Because when people are afraid, when you indulge in fear, what you're doing is you're feeding the collective fear of humanity, because we are all connected. And by reversing that with prayer, you can be contributing to the positive and getting rid of the fear of other people. And just by walking without fear, people will also be drawn to you as well. Number 2 is embracing your true identity. Now, Dr. Pye is talking about who is God after all? God is not an external person. God is a superhuman part of you that exists within you, and he identifies that with light. See, he says God. The word God is the problem. In Sanskrit, which is a divine language of India, one of the words they use is Deva, and Deva he translates to be a shiny being. In science, scientifically speaking, this is identifying with the photonic body, or the photons, which exists within us. So what he's suggesting is by identifying yourself with your light body, which is a simple visualization that you can participate in, you will be protected from the virus. And also bearing in mind that this is somewhat of a social experiment that is being carried out through God's will to help us. So by doing these things and by using the techniques that are coming from God's representatives in the form of the gurus, you can totally bypass any fear and any reclaim some immunity, or claim immunity from the virus. Okay, number 3 is the fire ritual. Now, Dr. Pye has said this is also the time to be invoking God's angels to come and combat the virus. God's angels being the forces of light that combat. So the virus itself is a manifestation of the evil forces, or something like a vaccine, for example, could be a representation of the light forces. Although vaccines in this world, I don't recommend. They're being also used to poison people. So anyways, the invoking the divine principles is most powerfully done through fire. And fire is why? Because fire is the manifestation of God. And Dr. Pye has created a fire ritual where he invokes different angels. I think 8 different angels and different aspects of these angels with sacred sounds. And what you do is you watch this fire, which you can access in the link of this video, the blog post I was referring to earlier. You watch the fire, and through that fire you're getting a transmission. And listening to the sacred sounds, you're getting a transmission. And he also guides you on how and when to pray to these different angels to get protection from them. And the last way is breathing the Holy Spirit. Now, the coronavirus, as Dr. Pye was talking about, what is it doing? It's attacking our respiratory system, which is attacking our breath. And our breath is representative of our life energy, our life force. Now, in the mystical tradition, the Holy Spirit, which is the power of God in Christianity, the Holy Spirit is represented in the body as the divine breath. So the Holy Spirit and the divine breath are the same thing, or prana, also life force energy. These are all synonyms. And so Dr. Pye put out a meditation where he teaches you how to infuse the Holy Spirit into your breath, into your lungs, and into your body to build your immunity against the virus, to heal if you have any conditions, and essentially protect yourself and shield your life force energy in your breath using the power of the Holy Spirit, or prana. Depending on which tradition you follow, they all mean the same thing, so don't have to get caught up in it. So I hope this helps. I wanted to keep this as short as possible, so I'm trying to talk fast. If you have any questions or comments, feedback, please leave a comment under this video. If you have any requests for future videos, please also share that feedback with me. And if you want to be notified for future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button next to subscribe. God bless, and wishing you safety during these trying times.